Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the first major, the first super major of the ranking season, which is going to be Kowloon 12 with Kagaribi. This event has pretty much all of Japan's top talent showing up, as well as a very special invader. For our top 16 seeds, you're going to have Aka, Gact, Ken, and Umeki in 13th, Tamapi, Kameme, Osimo, and Doramigi in 9th. In 7th, you got Zachary and T. 5th is Shutone Spargo. 4th is Reru. 3rd is Hurt. 2nd is Akola. And projected to win the entire thing is Mia. Now, we're going to be in the top 48 for pretty much the entirety of the video, but there are a couple upsets that I think could happen beforehand, and I do want to give mention to those. The only upset that I think is actually going to happen in this part of the bracket right here, though, is going to be Matsunabe over Osimo. Even though I do think Osimo's been playing pretty well recently, he had a really good season, he's probably going to be ending in that top 20. Matsunabe is very good at this game, and I also think Falco does extremely well versus Ryu. Fireball is no problem for Falco to deal with because you do have that reflector, and you just kind of dance around Ryu in neutral. You have no problem breaking his focus either. It's just not a fun matchup for Ryu at all, and I do think that Matsunabe is going to make that upset. And while I don't think any other upsets are going to happen, there are a couple that I think could happen and do deserve mentions. The first one is going to be Gorioka and Akola. Now, I obviously think Akola is going to win this, but I kind of just want to give a shout out to Gorioka because he has been so good recently. I do think that he is currently the best Joker player in Japan, and funnily enough, he plays Tsubaki right before his Akola set, so I guess we're going to find out that answer pretty soon here. But Gorioka has been playing really well recently. He's been stepping it up massively, specifically with the Joker. The Mewtwo hasn't been cooking as hard, but do you know what? If we have to put away our mid-tier so we get good results, I mean, makes sense. But the next episode I want to talk about potentially is Ryu over Zachary. Now, this is technically a Kagaribi event. I don't know if Zachary is going to get the full Kagaribi buff, but if he does, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Ryu to win this one. But in all seriousness, Ryu has been playing pretty well recently, and I think Diddy Kong does pretty well against Zachary's line of characters. I'm not super sure who's going to play. It's most likely going to be the Pit. That just seems to be the character that he prefers, but Ryu has a very real chance of making that upset, though, of course, as I already mentioned, Zachary does have that Kagaribi buff. And the final two that I want to mention are Spargo Hito and Doramigi Yamanakshi. For Spargo, it's just going to be he's never played a Bowser on the level of Hito before, so he just might not be ready, but he's probably going to be fine. He'll just go Aegis or win it out with Cloud anyway. Like, it really shouldn't be a problem, but it is Hito. The player is just extremely scary. You gotta look out for him. And the final one of Doramigi versus Yamanakshi. Min Min is just a super polarizing character, especially against someone like Steve, who isn't the best edgeguarder in the game, but versus Min Min, you're gonna have no time killing her in a single hit, but it's gonna be hard to actually get that first hit. Min Min is really good at keeping Steve out and just all characters out in general. As I said, for most of these upsets, I don't think this one is going to happen, but it definitely has a possibility to the point where I feel like I need to mention it. And on the other side of the bracket, our first potential upset is going to be Mia losing to either Kome or Lax. And for Lax specifically, it all comes down to one thing. Does Mia know how to edgeguard Chrom? And everyone can edgeguard Chrom, but specifically Game Watch can edgeguard him with up B, which is like the freest edgeguard maybe honestly in the entire game. You just have to press the button and Chrom dies, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's honestly very funny to watch. So if Mia knows how to do that, then he's not probably going to win that one. And even if he doesn't know how to do that, he's still probably going to win. But on stage, Chrom is a very scary character, one of the best sword characters in the entire game, and Game Watch doesn't do super well versus sword. So if Lax can get some momentum on his side, keep himself in the neutral, which is going to be extremely difficult to do versus Mia, I think he has a real chance in that set. And it's the exact same thing with Koma. You have this massively disjointed sword versus Game Watch. Shulk has the potential to be Game Watch's worst matchup. You just kill the character so early, especially with Smash Art. You have no problem getting the damage, and you're just heavily favored in pretty much every single neutral interaction. Now, do I think Mia is going to lose any of those matchups? No, but I do think it's a possibility. I think those players are good enough, and the characters are good enough versus Game Watch where I have to mention it. And an upset that I definitely think is going to happen is Snow over Umeki. This is no offense to Umeki, but I have no idea why Snow is seated under him. This guy is crazy. He literally just beat Mia at the last major he went to, and I think he's going to get his run back potentially after he gets this upset over Umeki. This is entirely me just looking at Snow's form, looking at him as a player, and just assuming he's going to win. I don't care about the matchup. I don't really care about Umeki either. I only care about how well Snow's been playing, and I think it's going to be good enough to beat Umeki right here. I don't really think there's going to be an upset here between Tamapi and Totoguri, but I did want to mention it because this is a banger. Like, this is going to go so hard. You're also going to have Reru versus Taike, which can definitely be a little bit scary. You really just have to make your hits count, and Luigi is one of the best characters at making your hits count, but you're also playing against potentially the best edge guarding character in the game as Luigi, so it is definitely going to be at least a little bit scary. And the final one that I want to mention is Karage over Kameme. This is another situation where I just think Karage is a really impressive up-and-coming player, and we haven't seen Kameme's form recently. I don't know how well he's going to be playing, so if he isn't at 100% and Karage is punching up like he has been recently, he's got a real chance to take that one. And we have arrived at the top 48. Whatever one is here for. Getting right into it, our first matchup is going to be Akola versus Gak. And Akola is going to be the heavy favorite going into this one. He's never dropped a set to Gak before. Steve is maybe Ness's worst matchup. It's just every aspect of the matchup is miserable for the character. Recovering, neutral, advantage state, disadvantage state. There's just no fun that Ness has here. And even though Gak is playing out of his mind at Smash Factor, I still think Akola is going to take it. Then you're going to have Zachary or Osimo, or the person that upsets Osimo. As I already said, I do think that Matsudabe has a good chance there, but let's just talk about Zachary versus Osimo for now. They've only played twice before, and the last time they played was at Kagaribi 9, but Osimo did win it. He managed to beat Zachary at a Kagaribi, which, you know what, I do think that is a pretty big deal, but I'm going to be picking Zachary to win this one because, as I've already said, I think Masuba is going to lose to Matsunabe, and it wouldn't really make sense for me to pick him to lose to Matsunabe and then pick him to beat Zachary. But number two, Joker, I just think is a really difficult matchup for Ryu, and if Zachary wants to win really badly, I think he could bring out the Joker, and it would be extremely difficult for Austin to win. But even with Pit, I think Pit honestly does decent in that matchup. You have a reflector for Fireball, which is very important. You have multiple ways to break the focus. Most notably, though, are going to be Nair and forward air. And also, I think arrows are pretty good in that matchup just because it stuffs Ryu's approach options so constantly. So I'm going to say that Zachary wins that one. Then you're going to have Akola versus Zachary, and he has never managed to take a set off Akola before. I really hope that Zachary tries the Rob in this set. I actually don't know if he's ever played Rob versus Akola Steve, but I think of the characters that are available to him, that is easily his best choice. I think Rob does quite well into the Steve matchup, potentially even winning it, but at least going even with the character. And if you're fighting someone like Akola, you need every advantage you can get. Our next matchup is going to be Hurt versus Aka. They've only played once before, and it ends up going into Hurt's favor game 5. But I actually think Hero does pretty well versus Nick. If I had to pick a character to win that matchup, and I personally think it's even, I would say it's slightly into Hero's favor. He is just one of the best characters, if not honestly the best character in the game at actually hitting Snake off his Cypher. Side B is a really annoying tool to deal with. He's got these pretty big disjointed sword aerials, and if he has buffs, you are going for an absolute ride. Same thing with if he has Accelerodal. The disadvantage is already pretty bad for Snake, but I think Hero is amazing at capitalizing on it. And even in the neutral, there's so many spells that Snake has to worry about where he's just not able to really throw his grenades and control the tempo because there's so many big explosions coming, and a lot of those explosions are going to clip grenades, and then you get hit by it and it just starts snowballing. Hero can be a very oppressive character for Snake to deal with, but you are still playing Snake, and you do still have to rely on getting magic, so every once in a while, you're going to have to box with Snake, and that's obviously where he's going to make his money. And I know I just talked about all the bad parts about the matchup, but I still think that Hurt is going to win this encounter, and the thing that ultimately decided it for me was the fact that Hurt managed to beat Beast Mode Paul without being able to read the menu. And I do think that Aka is currently a little bit better than Beast Mode Paul, but if you can beat the second best hero without reading the menu, then the first best hero should really be no challenge at all, and that's even if Aka is the best, but I would give him best hero at this point. That run at Delta was crazy. But on to our next set, Spargo versus Doramigi, and I am going to be predicting the upset here. I do think that Doramigi is going to take this one. All he needs is an edge guard. And every single time Spargo goes off stage, and I mean this, every single time he is going to die. It doesn't matter if he's playing Pyra, it doesn't matter if he's playing Mithra, it doesn't matter if he's Cloud, he could be in Korn for God's sake. Every single time he goes off stage, Doramigi is going to kill him, and I think he's just going to lose the set because of that. I still think it's going to be extremely competitive. Spargo is one of, if not the fastest player in the entire world. He's so good at making the space versus his opponent, rushing you down, forcing you to make a panic decision. But that's the thing, Doramigi can lose 1,000 interactions. All he needs is one because he's going to kill you pretty much every single time. So I think Doramigi is going to win that one. Then we get the run back of Hurt versus Doramigi. Hurt is up 4-0 on Doramiki, at least off the top of my head. He's off 4-0 on Doramiki in Snake's worst matchup. Despite this one being so bad, Hurt just plays it so well. He plays his win condition extremely well. He's honestly better at edge guarding Doramiki than Doramiki is at edge guarding him with Nikita, which is pretty insane to say considering Minmin's entire kit is built to edge guard. But Hurt is so good at this matchup. He's overcome it so many times before, and I don't see why he can't do it again. Our next top seed is going to be Mia, and his first opponent is seeded to be Umeki, and they have played a bunch before, and every single one of those sets has gone into Mia's favor. I don't know the exact record off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it is double digits in Mia's favor. That matchup is miserable for Peach, potentially the character's worst, and it's just a great draw for Mia if he gets Umeki, which I don't think he will. As I mentioned, I think Snow's going to make that upset, and Snow beats Mia in their last encounter. I believe it was Sumabato 49. Pretty much the only flaw of Game & Watch is going to be the character's lackluster weight, and Mario is really good at capitalizing off that, specifically because you get so many kills off the top. It just adds so much variance to Mia's game plan because, yeah, you could be winning neutral, you could be doing great, but Mario has Rage, which happens versus Game & Watch because you get hit by like 30 uppers in a row. All of a sudden, you get grabbed at 40%, you're dead. Now you have to play against Rage Mario in the comeback. It can just be extremely difficult out of nowhere against a character like Mario. Now, I still think that Mia is going to win this set because potentially the best player in the world, and he's heavily favored in the matchup, but Snow has done it before. He definitely can do it again. The next set will be T versus Tama P, very likely, and they've only played once before. It ends up going into Tama P's favor, and that was a year ago at Kagaribi 10. That's before Tama P was even good at this game. I mean, obviously, he was good enough to be someone like T, clearly very good, but he's gotten so much better in these past couple months. I don't think Pac-Man Bayonetta swings into either character's favor, and I think Bayo slightly beats Kazuya, so I'm going to be saying Tama P should win that one, and we get our run back of Mia versus Tama P. They played at Delta, it goes Mia's favor. They played at Kagaribi, it goes Mia's favor. You know what that means, third time's the charm. Tama P makes the upset and gets into top 8 winners side. I think Bayo has the tools to beat Game & Watch. We've seen Tama P beat Mia before. We've even seen him take many games off him recently. He just needs to close the set out, and I think this is going to be the time when it happens. And our final top seed is going to be Reru, and its projected opponent is going to be Ken. They've only played once before, and it ends up going into Ken's favor, though that was quite some time ago at this point, over 2 years, so that information really doesn't mean that much to me. And as I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the possibility of Taikei making the upset, the make or break for this matchup is really just going to be how much damage can Reru get on his hits, because every single time Sonic hits Luigi, he is in danger of dying. Luigi's recovery is so bad, but specifically versus Sonic, who has access to forward air and spring, it is just impossible to make it back. So Reru, every hit that he gets, and he's not going to get many, it's going to have to be at least 60, 70, or a kill. But here's the thing. I think Reru is good enough where that is very reasonable to expect that from him. And I do think that he is going to be on point at this event, to the point where he's going to be able to overcome the Sonic and Luigi matchup. I've been very impressed by this player, and I think it's going to continue as he gets into this top 8 winners side, or top 8 qualifier winners side. And to face him, it's going to be either Shutone or Kameme, a bit of a classic, but it's a pretty one-sided classic because it's 15-2 in Shutone's favor, which is, you know, obviously pretty dominant, and I am going to be going with Shutone to win this one. The numbers are just on his side, and I'm also going to be picking Shutone to make this top 8 through the winner side, even though I have a ton of faith in Reru, and I think he can overcome the Sonic matchup. Overcoming Sonic with a sword as Luigi, you know, that's an entirely different ass. Even Pyre versus Luigi specifically is really good because you just out-dish him so hard, and you get to bully him in that disadvantaged state. It's honestly just a really tough draw for Reru. Now, is it impossible? Absolutely not. Luigi can edge guard Aegis, and as I've already established, he hits you for like 80-90%. Even if the matchup is bad, in one hit, you're pretty much on death's door, so nothing's impossible. And y'all know the drill at this point. We don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to happen. So I'm taking the players that are most likely the top 8, and we have given them the percentages. You're going to have the confidence here with the Cola, Hurt, Tom P, and Shutone. Those are the players that pick the top 8 to the winner side. Then you're going to have someone confident with Spargo, Doramigi, Rare, and Zachary. And those are the people I picked the top 8 to the loser side of the bracket. Specifically, I think Spargo's going to get top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. I still have him losing to Doramigi, but I'm pretty confident that Spargo is going to top 8 this event. He's clearly put in, or presumably put in, a lot of time. This is the first event of the season. This one is going to be incredibly important, and there's just not a lot of people straight up in this event that I think can beat Spargo, and there's pretty much no one in this loser side of the bracket that I would favor against Spargo. Now, crazy things have happened in Japan before, you know, nothing is impossible, but I do think Spargo should top 8 here. Then I think you're going to have Reiru top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. His most likely opponent is Osimo, though Gak, Snow, and Totoguri all have a chance, as well as other players, of course, but assuming he gets Osimo, which I do think is the most likely, I would just favor him in that encounter. But even if it isn't Osimo, I'd favor him versus Gak, versus Snow, versus Totoguri. Reiru's just really good, and I think he's going to top 8. You got Zachary top 8 just through the normal part of the bracket right here. His most likely opponents are Kameme and Ken. He's just got favorable records versus both of those players, so I would expect him to win that one. And our final top 8 pick is going to be Doramiki, and I think he's going to get top 8 through this part of the losers bracket right here. Pretty much just switching spots with Spargo in the bracket. I mean, not even pretty much. He's literally just directly switching spots with Spargo in the bracket. His most likely opponents would be someone like Umeki, Kananabe. This could be Osimo because I do have Matsunabe beating Osimo. So whether or not, also I should mention, I still think that Reiru beats Matsunabe if this is Matsunabe instead of Osimo. That should be mentioned, but whether or not this is Osimo or Matsunabe, I would just favor Doramiki versus both of those players versus pretty much everyone in the loser side of the bracket, and yep, that's why I have him getting into the top 8. Now, you may have noticed that Mia was not my pick for top 8, and it's not because I hate him, I don't, but it's because if Mia loses to Tampi, which I have him doing so, then he would pop out into the loser side of the bracket right here, and you know who I have facing him? Spargo. So, the only reason that Mia is not getting picked for top 8 is because he has Spargo in his path in my projected bracket, but in every other scenario, every other world, I would obviously have Mia getting in the top 8. He's a very good player, but do you know what? To my credit, he has missed his last 2 top 8, so this isn't even that unplausible, but let's get to the other players that could top 8, because you got T, Osimo, Aka, Umeki, Ken, Kameme, Gak, Snow, Totoguri, and Matsunabe, and there are a couple other people who I think could top 8, but I would honestly be pretty shocked if it wasn't one or all of these 8 players. And the final one I should mention is Shiryuki. I have him in his own tier, and low-key I should probably have Totoguri there because Inkling is definitely a better character than Banjo, but I'm just not even surprised when TG does it at this point. But I do think the bracket is going to be important for Shiryuki. He only needs 1 or 2 decent matchups to actually get into the chance for top 8 because he can win a handful of unwinnables. We've seen him do it before. He's honestly been playing pretty well recently. I would regard him as the best Inkling player in the world, and I'm really excited to see how he does. And we have arrived at the top 8. This lovely graphic was made by the beautiful Memorization. As always, their link will be down below. Be sure to check them out and sub while you're down there. But our first matchup in the top 8 winner side is going to be Akola versus Hurt. And Hurt has the best head-to-head in the entire world against Akola of players that aren't named Spargo. Obviously, he's going to have that best one. But he boasts a 3-1 record offline, which is very impressive. And he's also the only player in 2024 who's managed to actually defeat Akola at a tournament, double eliminating him from Kagaribi. Obviously, other players have beaten Akola, but they weren't able to actually stop him in the grand finals. But Hurt didn't even let him get to that grand finals, which is pretty impressive. I also think Snake does really well versus Steve. You have a lot of different ways to break the blocks. You also have a lot of different ways to deal with minecart by just trading. And Snake actually wins a lot of those trades because he is so heavy, because he hits so incredibly hard. But with all of that said, I just have this feeling in my gut, in my bones, that Akola is going to win this one. I know that he has been grinding on the Snake matchup. He does not want to lose that one. So I'm going to be going with Akola to win this one. And again, it's the bones, so don't get mad at me if I'm wrong. It's really their fault when you think about it. And the other top 8 match in the winner's side is going to be Tama P versus Shuton. They played twice before, more recently at, I believe it was Kagaribi, and you have Tama P winning that set versus the Olimar as well, which I was honestly surprised by. I feel like Olimar Bayonetta would be extremely difficult for Bayo just because Olimar is such a low hitbox, but Tama P managed to overcome the best Olimar in the world 2 times in a row, and I can't see why he wouldn't go for the 3P. In the loser side, you're going to have Zachary Doramiki as our first matchup, and of Zachary's character, Rob is easily his best choice. I think Rob actually does really well versus Min Min. You're able to edge guard the character. Laser and Gyro pretty much just act as your own big arms that you get to throw at Min Min, and she doesn't really have the frame data to actually get Rob off of her once the character starts smothering her with things like down tilt, with things like just spamming Nair over and over again, because, you know, that's really difficult to deal with. And the reason that I'm very confident Zachary will win this set is because him and Doramiki have played once before, and he does end up going Rob in that set. So I'm confident that Zachary is going to be on the right character. And when Zachary's on the right character, it is a sight to Behold. And the other loser's 8th matchup is going to be Spargo Raru, and Spargo's going to be the heavy favorite going into this one. It's Cloud Luigi, and that's pretty much where the conversation ends, but Spargo also has a ton of experience versus Waka, so he's going to be well versed in the Luigi matchup. There obviously is the argument that the different style of Luigi could throw Spargo off, but to be honest, I don't think it matters how you play Luigi. I think Cloud back air is going to win anyway. On to the losers' quarters with our first matchup being Shutone Zachary, and this is the MK Leo versus Tweak of Japan. El Clasico. It's a 19-14 record in Zachary's favor. Shutone wins their last 2 encounters, but they weren't at big events. They were honestly quite some time ago at this point, over a year ago, which is honestly crazy. So who do I think is going to win this one? Well, it's a pretty tough answer. I think this is almost as 50-50 as it gets. I have no idea who Zachary is going to play. I honestly have no idea who Shutone is going to play. He's been favoring the Yalmor a lot more recently. But I'm going to be going with Zachary to win this one because this is technically a Kagaribi event, and that's the only tiebreaker I had, so that's what we are running with. Speaking of tiebreakers, you have potentially an even closer set here of Hurt versus Spargo. Now, it is a 2-0 record in Hurt's favor, but they were at the same event. Spargo is going to be grinding the Snake matchup. He's going to be a lot better, and I already thought he was pretty good at the Snake matchup. I think Cloud is pretty good in that matchup as well. I would regard it as even. So who is going to win that one? Well, I am going to be going with Hurt. It's going to be one of those situations where I just kind of have to see it to believe it. I'm not going to be going against the guy that has a 2-0 record on Spargo until I see Spargo actually take a set, but 50-50, very close matchup, and I think Spargo has a very real chance of winning this tournament, even though I obviously haven't picked him to win this tournament. All Spargo has to do is beat Dormigi. I think the second that Spargo beats Dormigi, he has a very real chance of winning this event because he's going to get into the top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. I do think that he should beat Tom P, and it's more likely to be Mia anyway, so he's probably going to beat Mia. He's definitely going to beat Akola, and then he would be in the winner's side of that grand final. So if Spargo doesn't lose to Dormigi, I think he should win, but I think he's going to lose to Dormigi, and then I think he's going to lose to Hurt. And we've got our big top 4, Akola Tamapi in the winner's side and Zachary Hurt in the loser's side. And for Akola Tamapi, I do believe that Steve Bayonetta is an even matchup that could honestly be swinging into either character's favor. The really good things about Steve are obviously going to be the fact that he can set up the walls. He's Steve, his damage output is crazy, and he has no time finding the kill. And the big boons for Bayonetta are going to be, one, she just outmaneuvers the hell out of Steve, like it's not even a competition at that point. She does really well at kind of dancing around the blocks, though she is not amazing at breaking them, and she is still going to be Bayonetta at the end of the day. She can still kill you in one hit, especially if she starts her combo off of a block with like an up tilt or an up B, then you're just going to absolutely go for a ride. But there's another character in Akola's kit that he could pull out versus Tom P, and that is going to be the Aegis, and I'm not super sure about who would win that matchup because obviously you have this massive win condition for Bayonetta in the edge guards, but Mithra is one of the few characters in this game that is actually fast enough to catch up with side B, so you have this move that is normally unpunishable and has this massive burst range, pretty much the core of Bayonetta's kit. And all of a sudden, Mithra can actively punish that, and that is a pretty big deal. And I bring this up specifically because the last time that Tom P and Akola played, which I believe was at Delta, you had Akola winning that set, and he won the last game with Aegis. And that's ultimately going to be the reason that I pick him to win this set. The fact that he was able to do it with his secondary as well as his main counter in one set just gives me a lot of confidence for him. Though I do think Tom P has a very real chance of winning this one. Not only has he done it before, not only is he a good enough player to do it, but his character is also good enough. So this should be an absolute banger if we do end up getting it. And in the loser semis, you're going to see Zachary versus Hurt, and I'm really excited for the set if it does end up happening because it's very likely going to be the Dark Pit out of Zachary, and you normally see Pit, the reason that he picks Dark Pit versus Snake is because of the damage that the arrows do, and they actually knock Snake off the Cypher. So you're able to snipe Snake from like a million yards away. It's really annoying to deal with. The first time that we saw Zachary and Hurt play, Hurt wasn't able to deal with it, but the second time that we saw them play, he does manage to figure it out, and that is going to be their more recent encounter. Obviously, it's going to be 3-1 in Hurt's favor. So unless Zachary's got a bunch of new tricks for this tournament, I think Hurt's going to put him down into the 4th place position. So you've got Hurt versus Tamapi in the losers finals. They've played once before, and it ends up going into Hurt's favor, and I think that's going to be the case this time around as well. It's just a really difficult matchup for Bayonetta. Snake is a super heavy character. He's pretty much a super heavy at this point, and he also has Grenade, which is constantly interrupting Bayonetta's combos, and every single time you take a trade in this matchup, and you'll be taking a lot of them, Snake is just going to be heavily favored, not only because he hits harder, but he's also just heavier. The matchup just sucks. I don't think it's as bad as Bale players make it out to be, but it's definitely a losing one for the character, and Hurt should be winning that one. So we get our grand finals, Akola versus Hurt. And despite Hurt's record being so good in this matchup, I am going to be going with Akola to win this one. Every single time the new season starts, Akola just comes out swinging. It was the case this year in 2024 with his win at Umbora, and I think it's going to be the case this time around. He is the best player in the world, and I think he's going to maintain that best player in the world title going into this season. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sport. It's been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.